What's up, everyone? Daniel Hayashi here with Hayashi Trades. So I want to just quickly cover the presidential debate. I just finished watching it for the second time, so I made sure that I got the good gist of it so I can quickly break it down for you. Okay, so what did they talk about? They talked about the economy before Trump and during Trump, and especially during the coronavirus. They talked about Trump's taxes. They talked about the importance of wearing masks. They talked about public and social services policy. They talked about the Black Lives Matter movement, white supremacy movement, and climate change. So those are the main things that are discussed in the whole 2 hour live stream of the debate. So now I really just want to touch on the humor because there was some classic one-liners and exchanges between Donald Trump and Joe Biden that I thought were great. And then we can get into the nitty gritty later because I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more of this debate, and you can always read up on it online and watch the whole thing. But I gave you the best parts of it. So, first hilarious thing, in my opinion, that was said was by the moderator, Wallace, and he said, "Mr. President, can you please let him finish?" And then Biden said, "He doesn't know how to do that. You picked the wrong guy, wrong night, and the wrong time." Okay, Joe. Then, after Trump was answering a question, Joe was just looking at him with a highest level of skepticism possible, and he said, "Not true." And then Trump says, "Listen, it's just the way it is, Joe." And then Biden laughs. And every time Biden laughs, honestly, I'm laughing because some of the things said are just ridiculous and exaggerated. And if they're not ridiculous and exaggerated, they were just like a horrible attempt to hurl an insult. And so it was just funny, honestly. Okay, so then the other thing that was surprising was that Biden actually tells Trump in not so nice words to shut up. He actually says, "Will you shut up, man," one time. And then he also said later, not even that much later, he says, "Will you just hush your mouth?" That's actually really not a presidential thing to say, not courteous to say during a presidential debate on national television. But I think Biden was just really triggered by being constantly interrupted by Trump. So that was interesting. At one point, Trump says, "There's nothing smart about you, Joe. 47 years and you've done nothing." And Joe is just chuckling in his little corner. So I thought that was interesting. And then Trump is talking about all the improvements that he's made and how much he's really been an asset to the people and a leader during coronavirus. And Joe refutes that, and he's like, "No." And he said, he just sits on his golf course. And then Trump says, "You probably golf more than I do, Joe." And Joe starts laughing, and I'm laughing too, really hard, because we all know Trump plays way more golf than anyone else. And so, yeah, that was great. It was interesting when they talked about the masks because Trump said that he only wears a mask when it's absolutely necessary. But Biden is wearing a mask 24/7, and he saw him at some event, and Biden walks in with the biggest mask he's ever seen, and Biden just starts laughing. What can you do? He's saying absolutely clownish, ridiculous things. And then they talked about one thing I left out at the beginning. They talked about they were asked about their campaigns and the size of their campaigns, especially given that it was not really a good idea to be gathering in large crowds. And so he's asked by Wallace, Trump is asked by Wallace, how come he had these huge crowds and what was going on with that. And then he compares that to Biden, who was doing on a much smaller scale. And then Trump said, "You're smaller scale because nobody will show up." And Wallace laughed and Biden laughed. That was great. Trump says that the economic recovery was V-shaped, and Biden is saying it's K-shaped because for Trump, he says it was doing awesome, and then it got shut down, and then we're finally starting to recover. And for Biden, he says, okay, it was doing all right, it was moving, and then we reopened, but the only people that benefited from this were people that are already have like a high net worth, that are already rich, and the rich got richer, and the poor, they're still struggling in the situation despite the economy being reopened. So that was interesting, and honestly I believe it's true, and they need to really get that stimulus package over and done with already. It's been such a long time. Trump talked about the state of New York, and honestly, from what I've been hearing, I did used to live in New York City. It's pretty bad, but I don't want to say exactly because I'm not actually there. But from what I do know and hear, it's not looking good. And then I love when Trump said, "China ate your lunch." That was so funny. But then something that came after that was not funny, Trump, was when he started hurling insults at Biden about his son. And like, I feel like, honestly, I think Biden handled it well because he's like, listen, like, I'm not here to talk about anyone's family, but then Trump just went there. So at the end, well, when Trump said that, Biden kind of bit his tongue, but then at the end, he did come back and say a lot of things in defense of his son. So I know that it definitely got to him, and I really don't agree with Trump going to that low extreme, but it happened. And then, yeah, so that is more or less the debate. I'm going to link down below information about the fact checks, and then also a link to the full debate. And if you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please like and subscribe if you've not already. And I'm also leaving some food for thought for you at the end. Bye!